And one reason I'm doing this is because I want to get your ideas on success, because I'm trying to be a successful business person. And I'm also trying to pass that on to ladies at a women's shelter in Gaucher called Guardian Angels. I'm trying to teach them things about how to be successful in life after they've been kicked in the teeth. And so this is the book that I'm using to do it with. Okay? Mm-hmm. And so any further feedback that I can get from someone as successful as you, who's been the CEO of a company, that's just, to me, that's priceless. And Napoleon Hill has 6 steps to turn your desire into gold. And he says the first thing that you want to do is fix in your mind exactly what you want. What is your goal? And you don't merely want to say something to the effect of, well, I just want a lot of money, okay, or I just want a nice car. He says you have to be definite about the thing it is. And what do you think about that?
Well, I think that everything is relative.
Okay.
And what is trash for one person is gold for another.
Okay.
And you have to evaluate your ability against what you're striving to achieve, mm-hmm. and have a realistic understanding and appreciation of what it's going to take to be successful, and to achieve what you're trying to achieve.
Okay. Okay. Well, number 2 is determine exactly what you intend to give for this thing you desire.
Well, that again becomes a relative evaluation, because in some cases you have to give a lot, right. You have to overachieve or to over do or work twice as hard, mm-hmm. whereas other times it falls in your lap, yeah. or you're able, with your ability and knowledge and expertise, to get it done without a great amount of effort because mm-hmm. of your own personal attributes, character, and understanding of the situation.
Okay.
And so, in my judgment, everything is relative to what your background and experience and ability provides you, mm-hmm. to approach and attempt to be successful in what you're trying to do.
Okay.
And as I said, it becomes depends on what you bring to the table.
Yes, sir.
And what your goal is.
Mm-hmm.
Many times people set unrealistic goals and get frustrated because they don't achieve what they think they should,
right.
because they aren't willing to evaluate their limitations, or what their experience and background provides them, okay. in order to try to achieve these goals.
Okay.
And one of the most difficult things in the world is self-evaluation.
I've been told that. Yes.
And
yes.
evaluating.
Mr. Graham tells me that all the time.
In other words, to evaluate what your abilities are,
mm-hmm.
and what you really can do, and what you need to obtain in order to do so.
Right. Okay. Number 3 is establish a definite date when you intend to achieve the goal.
I think.
Once again, we're kind of relative.
Well, again, everything, as I say, is relative.
Yeah.
And it probably is valuable,
yeah.
to have a date.
Yeah.
Because you need to evaluate how you're moving, how you're achieving, how you're growing,
okay.
how you're being successful or unsuccessful.
Uh-huh.
Another thing I think is important.
Yes, sir.
Is to be able to understand and evaluate why you weren't successful. Because quite often what you think is the way to achieve it is the improper evaluation.
Okay.
So you become frustrated because what you thought was right and what you thought was going going to solve the problem fails.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to then go back and reevaluate what you were doing, and maybe come at it and come around it from a different angle, and approach it from a different side in order to achieve your success.
Okay. Okay. That speaks to step 4, which he says, create a definite plan for carrying out your desire.
Oh yeah.
And begin at once, whether you're ready or not, to put this plan into action.
Well, you've got to start somewhere, and you've got to try something.
Okay.
And so what you do is you try what you think is the best approach,
Right.
and hopefully that is right.
Yeah.
That becomes judgment. It's something that is difficult to teach. If you can have good judgment, which means you can evaluate factually and fairly and successfully what you're trying to do, where you're trying to go, how you're going to get there, and what is going to be your successful realization when you do so.
Right.
That's a wonderful trait. It is also one of the most difficult things to learn or to teach, because nobody develops judgment the same way.
Okay.
But judgment and the ability to evaluate is probably the most important personal characteristic you need to determine how you're going to be a success and when you are a success.
Okay.
And also on how to handle a situation or how to handle a person.
Yes, sir.
Again, going back to the Army, the Army in many cases has a lot of officers and a lot of non-coms who just by brute force or brute personality get things done. And Mr. Graham will tell you that in some cases that is the key to discipline.
Okay.
Because when you are training a soldier to go over the hill and run into another guy that's shooting back at you, he's got to have the discipline to do that. And many times you've got to threaten him, you've got to put the fear of God in him, and you've got to also sometimes try to inspire him that that's what he has to do.
Right.
And that's the scariest thing in the world, is to go out of a trench into a field of fire. But again, it becomes the way it's dependent on how you want to provide the leadership and guidance and control, and it's done both ways, and it's done successfully both ways. There is no one way there's no one only way that's successful. There's always more than one way to get a job done.
Okay.
And there's always more than one way that a person is able to get a job done.
Okay. All right.
This is pretty deep stuff.
Yes. Number 5, he says, write it out. Write a clear, concise statement of what it is you intend to acquire, the time limit for its acquisition, what you intend to give in return for it, and describe clearly the plan through which you intend to accumulate it. And then number 6, he says, read your statement aloud twice daily, once just before retiring at night, and once in arising in the morning. See, feel, and believe yourself in already acquisition of your goal.
Well, that's probably over and above what 90% of the people do.
Okay.
That's a very desirable thing to do, but I would warrant that it happens in less than 50% of the cases.
Okay.
But if it's a hell of a good suggestion.
Okay.
I would not argue with that at all.
Okay.
By the same token, as I say, I don't know that many people do that.
Right.
In fact, I have not seen many people do that. So it's not a common thing.
Right.
It's a special thing.